Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Big Fat Video Blog. I I don't really have much for this week. I've been trying to think of topics to really discuss and talk about, and I'm kind of drawing a blank. But just to let you know, it's Friday night, kind of relaxed. I've been eating all night, and I've got some cookies here. So I thought it'd be just fun to share some cool stuff from my childhood, in terms of stories and stuff that happened to me when I was younger, and maybe talk about some of the cool things, paranormally, that my family had encountered throughout growing up, and then also just talk generally about some things as a fat person I've encountered. So, I guess we can start there, you know. By the way, because I'm getting pretty light on ideas, if you guys have anything you want me to try out and do, let me know. Um, you know, what have you. Um, sorry, I am a little. It's Friday night. I live in Oregon, so you do the math. Um, you know, that's why there's cookies here and ice cream and stuff. So anyway, anyway, basically, so as I told you guys, I'm from Pittsburgh, and growing up in Pittsburgh was a really unique experience. So if anybody knows anybody that is legitimately from Pittsburgh, um, they all kind of tend to have this really hostile kind of accent. I lived in the Pacific Northwest for about, I'm gonna say, about 10, yeah, about actually 13 years now. I've lived in the Pacific Northwest. And when I moved up here, I was super impressed with how nice people talked. And they were just so nice and so humble, and they were just really relaxed. Where in Pennsylvania, I don't know. They're definitely a lot more the it's very nasally. So I really don't have a Pittsburgh accent growing up. I had it growing up, and when I go back home, it really becomes very prevalent. If I start getting aggravated or mad, I will say Pittsburghese kind of things. So things like yins or gum band, which is a slang term for rubber band. It's a really unique culture of language that's in the Pittsburgh area. It's kind of like a mix match of English and Scottish and German and Slovakian and all of these different Central European, combined with Northern Europe, accents. It's very weird. But yeah, I mean, growing up, it was pretty harsh. And so when I came up here, I was like, everybody just talks so nice and so polite. When I talked with people, and every time somebody would say something, I'm like, even though you're yelling at me, it's just so polite. It's so fucking polite. So, yeah, the reason why I'm talking about this is just because, I have to go back home. I'm going back home in January to go see my family, and I'm super stoked about it. I love my family, they're fantastic people. But it's going to be weird going back, and I got to get used to the whole fact no, these people aren't legitimately pissed off. They are just fucking, that's how they talk, you know? Even when my family calls, my aunt will call me, she's like, hi, you. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, why are you bitchy at me? Like, what is your problem here? And I'm like, oh, it takes me. I'm like, yeah, that's the accent. Like, you're just asking me how I am. Like, you're not mad at me. You're just like, how are you? And I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever. Um, so yeah, growing up in Pittsburgh, it was really cool. We had a few amusement parks in Pittsburgh, which actually is so much different than up here because up here we have like two, and one of them is like a little like kid park that like isn't a real park, and then there's like this one park near Seattle called Wild Waves, and it's literally just like a water park and like a small park. So like theme parks aren't a big thing up here, and so when I go back home, like everybody like when they like my mom will asked me in the summer, like, oh, did you go to a amusement park? So, number one, I don't go to amusement parks. I'm a really fat man. Like, all of this makes riding roller coasters and other things not a possibility. Like, I cannot ride a roller coaster. But apparently, my mom has this like idea that in the summer I'm going to water parks. So I don't know where she's getting that from, but I like even tell her, I'm like, Mom, the last time I was on a roller coaster was in 2001. Like, that's when I could actually fit on the roller coaster. In fact, where I'm going with the story is that in 2001, so this is a fat story. In 2001, I was probably like 220, 230. And I was getting on the Steel Phantom, which anybody that's from Pittsburgh knows the Steel Phantom was the premier roller coaster of the like Western Pennsylvania tri-state area. Like it was like you went to Pittsburgh to ride the Steel Phantom. And actually at one point the Steel Phantom, like sometime like in the mid 90s, was the world's fastest roller coaster. So like we would have people that would come here from like, Germany and like India and stuff to ride the Steel Phantom. Like it was actually pretty cool. And so my mom, like still thinks of that. But when I was getting on the Steel Phantom, I had to sit down and there were these like latch bars that would come over you. And I remember getting on there, and this was like probably after the summer where, I put on a little bit. I put on probably like 15, 20 pounds. And I was already kind of pushing it on roller coasters at that point. Like, it was already like, yeah, you gotta really like suck it in a little bit to get the thing to latch down. Well, I went on there and we waited in line forever. Like, I think we were in line for like 2 hours. It was really bad. Like, I like had to poo. It was like horrible, but I just powered through that shit. And literally, and I remember we got on the roller coaster, got in the seat. The guy tried to put the latch thing down and it wouldn't buckle. Like it was like bouncing off of my belly here. It was like, and I'm like, what am I gonna fucking do? Like, I can't, like, I can't like hold my friends up, while they're trying to ride this roller coaster ride, and I'm just like, like I don't want to look like an idiot. So the guy's just like, how are you feeling today? I'm like, I'm okay. He's like, suck it in, and I just sucked it in, and he took his foot and he jammed it on the bar so motherfucking hard that I had bruises like all the way up. Like I have big bruises here, and it was the most uncomfortable roller coaster ride I've ever had in my entire life. Like it was the only time I was on a ride that I just wanted it to end. And I loved roller coasters. In fact, like people will ask me like, what would ever incentivize you to get gastric bypass surgery? And like, yeah, there's like fitting into better clothes. There's, not being discriminated against at job opportunities. There's there's, being able to walk around a grocery store or mall without having to sit down every like 10 minutes. There's things like that. But the number one thing that I think would really incentivize me is going on roller coasters. Unfortunately, my sex drive and my personal identity don't exactly allow that to happen. So, roller coasters is definitely out of the option. But, long story short about that is that was like the catalyst that was like, I'm done with amusement parks. So, the last amusement park that I ever really went to was water park, and that was a wave pool kind of thing, and that's really where my amusement park career ended, was being by the wave pool and riding this thing called the lazy river, which, if you guys are a fan of Family Guy, there was this really fantastic skit about that on there, cutaway gag, about this guy like unplugging the clogged river flow of fat people on rafts. That's pretty much where it ended, like around 3:20. At 4:66, would I be willing to go back to an amusement park? Absolutely. I think I would definitely need some sort of motorized scooter. I'm not a Disney fan, really. We actually watched The Lion King tonight, live action remake. It is fantastic. If you haven't had a chance, go ahead and like rent it from Redbox or something. It's really cool. The graphics, like, it really feels real when you watch it. And you're like, shit, there's fucking talking cats. And when you're high or you're drunk and you're watching a cat talk, like, that's crazy. Like, you're just like, holy shit, why is this cat talking? So it's a really good movie though, regardless. Like, see it with, friends or whatever. It's a great time. But, bringing that back, growing up in Pittsburgh, was interesting paranormal wise, because what would happen is my family, my dad actually grew up in a haunted house. He grew up in this old part of a mansion that was in like the northern Pittsburgh area, like in a place that they used to call Allegheny City. And they actually found dead bodies. My grandfather was doing some reconstruction work on the place, and they actually looked in a shaft and they found like 2 dead bodies. And that kind of helped the disturbances slow down a little bit. But it was still pretty crazy stuff. It was very scary. My dad reported some really creepy, crazy things to me. And so, growing up, and my dad lived in a haunted house, or a haunted trailer. He lived in a, really, it wasn't like a shitty trailer like a lot of people think, like, ew, trailer park. Like, yeah, he lived in a trailer, but he lived in a very nice trailer. It was a very like well put together trailer, and it actually kind of looked like a ranch home. But it was extremely like uncomfortable. Like, you couldn't sleep in certain rooms without feeling this overwhelming presence. And one time at 3 in the morning, I got up to go to the bathroom, and you had to walk through the kitchen and the dining room to get to the bathroom. And there was this long ass hallway, like, that was like really long. And I was ready to walk down it, and I saw this thing. There was this light that shined through the back of like the trailer, and I seen this like black shadow thing, and it ran towards me. And I remember, like, I had goosebumps like all over my body, and it was crazy. And like, I remember, like, I don't even remember. I think I ended up making it to the bathroom, and I think I peed, and like there was like piss all over my pants, and I think I ran back to bed, and I woke up and I was just like covered. And my dad was like, "What happened?" And I told him, and he had told me later on that he would hear noises from that hallway, like things running down the hallway, and we just shared that. And we actually talked about that like a year or two before he passed, because I was starting up my paranormal investigation career, and I shared that with him. He was just super fascinated by it. So Yeah, it was pretty cool. Well, not cool, but it was terrifying, but it was an interesting story. You know, but yeah, growing up in Pittsburgh was really fun. Another fat thing that happened is outside of that one, I remember that I was 10 years old. So I was always a husky kid. I was never thin. I was like 80 pounds or 84 or 86 pounds. Or no, I was 130 pounds in the third grade. So I was a fatty. And I loved food. And I remember what I used to do was when I was younger, I would go into, and I don't know if any of you other gainers that are watching this or feedies that are watching this have ever experienced this, but I would go into my kitchen and I would take like snack cakes and things and I would take it back to my room and I would hide it. And in fact, it was so bad that my mom would like open up like I had this like little cabinet in my room and she would open it up and like fucking like wrappers would just fall out. And so she's like, "Oh, my kid has some weird disorder." And so they had me going to be seen and they were like, "Yeah, your son's just very depressed." So they put me on, I think it was like Zoloft or something. And it helped a little bit, but not much. But like where I was going with that, and I am so sorry I'm all over the place today. Like it's been a hell of a week. My video is late to you all because things have been crazy in my personal life right now. And so today, this night is like my night to just be like, fuck it. And it's been great. I've had a pint of ice cream so far. I've eaten half of a pot roast. I had a 7 or 8 Reese's cups. You know, I'm just gonna get diabetes tonight. That's my goal. um, but yeah, living in Pittsburgh was unique, and then I moved to Central Pennsylvania after I graduated high school, and I actually met my then partner out there, and I actually was going to go to school at Bloomsburg University to become a nurse. And I originally was going to go become a forensic scientist. So I was in love with CSI. Like anything that was like a like procedural crime drama as a kid, I was into. So like all of my friends, just to give you like an idea of like how I became this like really weird fucked up person, was all of my friends were into things like anime, Pokemon, you know, like fantasy things like Lord of the Rings, like weird shit like that. Well, not weird shit, like commonplace shit like that most nerds are really into. I was into things like let's watch people get murdered and the people that solve their crimes, watch the science of that. Let's go ahead and like, delve into libraries and read historical journals and novels like the Da Vinci Code. And, of course, it's based off of a true thing, but it's fiction. But yeah, like I was into all this like weird, like true crime history stuff. And my friends would be like, "What are you into?" And so that's kind of weird, like, because I have a hard time relating to people like this week, and I love you Nintendo fans, along with you Disney people. um Pokemon Sword and Shield came out and Disney Plus came out, and I'm sitting here and I'm like no excitement at all for that. I'm like, I want you to have a great time and you will have a great time, but I won't do that. My boyfriend jokes with me. He's like, "You have 4 interests. How do you function?" Like, and I do need to work on expanding my interests though. I need to work on being open-minded. And I'm trying, but it is so hard because I look at something and I'm thinking like, I could be watching a true crime thing right now. I could be like watching a documentary. I could be, reading about, how they're going to get us to warp speed, playing a game that's like really involved. Or even on the other end of the spectrum, playing like fucking solitaire on my computer at like 3 in the morning, eating a pack of Chips Ahoy naked, drinking like a pint of milk. Like, I have a varied life. But anyway, it's crazy. It's just like, I'm just like, I have very limited things. But yeah, I really have a very limited interest set. And I think that has been great because, like, I can go somewhere and be like, I want that game, or I want that movie, or I want this, or I'm super excited about this for a short period of time. Then I'll put it down, go find something else. But I'm always really excited with that thing. Like right now, like I'm kind of on a break from my online game. I play Final Fantasy 14 just because I've like gotten through the story and all of the stuff that I'm interested in really is like done right now. And like I'm just like into like watching documentaries for some reason. I don't know what this is. Like my boyfriend will walk in and be like, "Okay, well you're watching people dying from the Black Plague today. This is a really great thing to watch, you know." And then, he wonders, like, why are you so depressed all the time? Because I'm watching people dying from the Black Plague. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting. So, anyway, I am all over the place with this video. And again, I'm sorry, this video is more just of a bullshit kind of video that I wanted to put together to kind of have more of an open, honest dialogue with you guys. Talk to you a little bit about my history and some of the cool things that have happened to me. One other final thing that I want to like share with you that happened to me as a kid that was really impactful is that I actually was part of okay. So I was part of this like mystery group as a kid, and we would go around our neighborhood and we would like solve mysteries. And it was like seriously like real life, like Hardy Boys, except not the Hardy Boys from South Park because they're like just watch South Park. But anyway, it's like not like that, but it was actually kind of cool. Like we would go around the community and we would like look at like trees for clues and stuff, and we had like a friend that set it all up for us. It was really fun. But again, like my nickname in high school was Scooby. I just am into like some really weird mystery, history, sciency stuff that a lot of other people aren't into. So I guess I'm telling you that because I apologize if sometimes I feel like, our conversations get bored. It's just because my interests are so fucking weird and bizarre. On the other end, I am doing my best to try to like other things. I will watch an episode of Pokemon if my boyfriend forces me to, because gotta make a little sacrifices, I guess. He makes sacrifices for me. He'll watch like, some weird documentary with me, or he'll watch Star Trek with me. So I'm trying my hardest to reciprocate that, type of thing. So yeah. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you've stayed till the end, congratulations. Like you've went on a rampage of thoughts with somebody that is a little inebriated right now, and I appreciate that. That shows that you have character, and I enjoy you, and I hope you subscribe to my channel. Um, just because things are kind of crazy coming up with the holidays and stuff, I may not be making super regular content. My mom is coming into town in a few weeks, and like I said, we will have an interview with her talking about how she reacted when she found out that I was a gainer. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, I hope you guys are eating lots. If you're trying to gain, if you're not, I just hope you're having a fantastic time in this life. Don't take life too seriously. It goes faster than before you know it. So, all right, take it easy, and I will see you next week if I'm able to. Bye.